Let's talk about manifesting with anxiety and ADHD. Hi guys, I'm Shakara. I am your mind's best friend, and today we are talking about how to manifest with anxiety and ADHD. As you may know, if you have anxiety or ADHD, your daily tasks look a little different than people who are neurotypical or someone who does not have anxiety. ADHD and anxiety can lend itself to problems in executive function. And executive function is super important in order to get things done, in order to start tasks, in order to remember what it is that you're supposed to be doing, in order to keep your focus, in order to complete tasks, in order to keep your mind organized in such a way that you are able to get the things done that you set out to get done. And it's never a problem of not knowing what it is that you're supposed to be doing. It's a problem of your mind and your body being able to connect in synergy to be able to get the things done in the first place. One of the major contributors to this is having a problem with dopamine production. If you have ADHD, if you deal with anxiety, you are probably dealing with problems of dopamine production. Your body is not producing enough dopamine at the right times in order for you to be able to do the things that you set out to do. So, how do we fix this? We have to learn the difference between cheap dopamine and productive dopamine. So, what is dopamine? You probably heard the word dopamine, but do you really know what it is? Dopamine is a neurotransmitter involved in pleasure, reward, motivation, motor control, and it influences our cognitive function and our mood. Dopamine is a key chemical messenger in task initiation, our ability to start a task and remain focused on that task for the duration of it. When you have ADHD and when you have anything that's causing you anxiety, you can find that you run into the problem of task initiation a lot. Inadequate dopamine decreases motivation and our ability to focus on the task at hand in order to move that needle forward on our manifestation. So again, if you have ADHD or anxiety, you likely don't have a problem of knowing what you're supposed to be doing. It's likely you know very well what you're supposed to be doing in detail. But we are more prone to getting into a freeze response where we just feel frozen and stuck in ourselves because we can't figure out what to do first. We don't know what to tackle first. We don't know where to start. We think it's going to be overwhelming. We think it's going to be boring. And it just kind of builds up inside of us to the point where we kind of don't do anything. Or we do things that are productive but have nothing to do with moving the needle forward on where we're trying to go. What a lot of us do when our body knows that we need that dopamine hit in order to get started on a task is we'll reach for cheap dopamine. Cheap dopamine comes from cheap sources like scrolling social media, binge watching your favorite show, eating junk food. These are all examples of cheap dopamine, but none of these are going to sustain us. Just like being hungry and eating a bag of chips instead of a nourishing meal, cheap dopamine is not going to sustain you over a long period of time. It's not feeding your system like productive dopamine would. Though these activities do flood our brain with dopamine, it's a short-lived high and it can lead to constant cycles of craving. It's not nourishing you and it's really not helping you move the needle forward on anything. What we want is productive dopamine. That is going to be the key to your manifestation. Despite what you may hear across these internets and these interwebs, action is definitely a part of manifestation. No amount of sitting down, wishing something different would happen is going to happen for you if you can't do the things necessary to put yourself in alignment with what it is that you're seeking. So, in order to take action, we need productive dopamine. Productive dopamine is your nourishing meal when you're hungry instead of grabbing a bag of chips or crackers or cookies or something quick to sustain you. This is something that is going to nourish you for the long haul, and you're going to see much more positive spikes in energy, much more positive spikes in efficiency, much more positive spikes in getting your done. Okay? This will sustain us, it will carry us through a task, and we will really start to see the needle move forward on our goals, which in turn makes us want to do them more. So productive dopamine comes from activities that require a little bit of effort or a lot, but it's coupled with a sense of achievement and purpose and leads to long-term satisfaction. And this is what we're after. You might develop a craving of sorts for this type of dopamine as well, but at least it is helping you to move the needle on your goals and to get these things cranked out so you can see your manifestations come quicker. The key difference here is that it reinforces positive behaviors and encourages personal growth. If you can participate in these activities day after day, you will really start to see the things that you want come into fruition. You'll be able to follow your inspired action much more easily. So what are some examples of productive dopamine? The first way is exercise, and not just any kind of exercise, but exercise that is either high intensity, that is aerobic and getting your heart focused, or exercises that are working on calming and regulating your nervous system. High intensity exercises could be like HIIT, could be aerobic exercises. Lower impact exercises, if you're after that, could be, of course, yoga and stretching. All of these things work over time to increase your dopamine, but even in the short term, if you just do them for just a little while before starting your task, you'll find that you have an increased energy and effort to do what it is that you want to do. The second way is one of my favorite ways because I feel like it helps so much in the process of getting things done. So we talk a lot about visualization and meditation as a manifestation tool, but usually that involves living in the end. So we're dreaming of or envisioning an end process, our end goal, where we want to end up, how we want to feel in the end. For someone like me, one of my favorite things to do is something called process visualization. Kind of the opposite of living in the end. It's living in the now and thinking about the things that I have to do now in order to get to the end. Because living in the end is great, but it also can make my mind feel like I've already done things that I haven't done. So process visualization is amazing because you sit and you visualize each step of your task step by step. And remember, the brain cannot tell the difference between you physically partaking in an activity and mentally partaking in an activity, which is why process visualization works so well. In order to do this, all you have to do is set some time aside. You can use 5 minutes, 10, 20, 30, however long you think it's going to take you. I like to do this in the morning while I think about my day. I take some time and I think about what it is that I have to do for the day, and I think about everything involved in doing that task. So I sit and I visualize myself getting up, going over to my desk, opening my computer, opening the program that I need to start in order to get my work done for the day. So let's say I'm using Canva because I am working on a couple ebooks right now. So I'll open Canva. I'll imagine what my page is going to look like. I'll imagine which page I'm going to tackle first. I'll think about taking a deep breath and starting the task. It's really just a practice in envisioning the task from start to finish, because once you've done it in your mind enough times, your body feels like you've done it. So when it comes time to actually do it in the physical, you feel like you've done it already. So it just feels like you're continuing a task that you've done many times before. It doesn't feel so overwhelming. So process visualization can really be helpful for you if you are a person who only uses visualization to live in the end. So another thing that's very helpful is creating some sort of awards system. So maybe you use your cheap dopamine as an award for getting your task done. So if you complete an hour of a task, you can give yourself a certain amount of time on social media or watch a certain episode of your favorite show that you love to binge watch. That's something that you can look forward to, and it helps you build your stamina toward doing the thing that you need to do in order to get to the thing that you want to do. Now, another thing that I like to do is I have this habit tracking bracelet. I got this idea because I found out that I'm a kinesthetic learner. Side note, If you ever want to help yourself in manifestation as well and figure out what works best for you as opposed to just the gen pop, find out your learning style. I've taken several different little quizzes, and what always comes up most for me is kinesthetic. I need to actually tinker with things and touch it and see it in order for me to really have it sink into my mind and my brain. I first was going to take marbles and put them in a jar or something whenever I completed a task, and I knew seeing the little marbles build up in that jar was going to feel very rewarding for me. So I thought, well, I need something that's with me all day. Wherever I am, whenever I complete a task, I want to be able to see that I've completed something for the day. So I have this habit tracking bracelet where I have these beads and they just slide. So whenever I complete a task for the day, I just slide a bead over. And for me, that's really helpful to be able to see in real time. It's like a progress bar that stays with me all day. And I love to be able to do things to add to that habit tracker. Now, there are other habit trackers like water bottles. If you're trying to increase your water intake, there are water bottles that have the little marks on them. That's a form of a habit tracker. There are also apps like the one I'll mention here because I can't remember it by name, where you build a little tree. Whenever you log in that you've contributed to a habit that you're trying to build, you can see your little tree building. It starts out like a seed in the ground, a shrub, I believe, and then it grows into a big tree over time, and you can continue adding to it. So there are apps like that to help you as well. Use your tools, guys. Use your tools. Lastly, and remember, there are lots of ways to get productive dopamine. I'm only covering 4 here today. Lastly, make it a game. So one of the easiest ways to make it a game is to put yourself on a timer and say, how much can I get done in 20 minutes? Set a 20-minute timer, work hard for 20 minutes, no distractions, give in to nothing. Make it a game, whether it's cleaning your room, starting a task, writing a paper. If you're a student and you have an assignment due and you just can't get started on it, you're always procrastinating, set a 20-minute timer. And that helps to make it feel like a game. If you know anything about Pomodoro technique, it follows that same premise where you are doing deep work for a certain amount of time and then you have a break to look forward to. That's a reward. And then you do deep work for another set period of time and then you have a reward to look forward to. So usually they tell you to start off with like 25 minutes of deep work, 5-minute break. Finding ways to make it feel fun for you so it doesn't feel so mundane can also help you as well. Remember, we're after productive floods of dopamine that's going to sustain us, not drain us over the long haul or start to feel like cravings and addictions. Because we know certain things that aren't good for us can start feeling like cravings and addictions if we keep giving into them. So that's 4. I'm going to give you a bonus. A bonus one is body doubling. It is very helpful to see someone doing the thing that you need to be doing and do it with them. So there are plenty of things right here on YouTube that you can watch where someone has taken the time to be a body double for you. So if you need to get some work done, and it always helps to feel like you have a friend working with you and you don't have a friend handy who can do this with you, you can use YouTube or other videos of people body doubling. Just search study with me or work with me or even body doubling for ADHD, and lots of different things will come up. That can really help you too, because it feels like even though it's not real time and obviously someone recorded it, still working with someone in real time right alongside them doing the same, they're doing the same thing that you're trying to do, can really be helpful. Again, use your tools. Now, my final tip in all of this is just to constantly remind yourself to limit instant gratification. All of those cheap sources of dopamine have to be kept to a minimum. Don't even open it. Don't even open it and tell yourself you're just going to spend 5 minutes. We know how quickly 5 minutes becomes 45 minutes or 2 hours or a whole day that you've let go by. And at the end of the day, you're like, what did I do today? How did I move the needle on my goals? How was I productive? If you can't answer that question, it's probably because you're giving into a lot of cheap forms of dopamine where it feels like you're doing something in the moment, but it's not really something productive. It's not something that is moving the needle on your manifestation. I hope you found this video very helpful for you today. Hopefully you picked up just even one little morsel that you can try for this week to really help you get a go on these manifestations. I don't want another year to pass and you still haven't brought that idea to fruition. So let me know in the comments how this works for you. Come back in a couple days after you try one of these things and let me know how it showed up for you, how it worked for you. If it did indeed help you get through a task, I'd love to hear more about it. And if you have things that you do that you want to add to the conversation, please put it in the comments below, because you never know who you're helping. This is a community I really do want us to share, so make sure you include that below. And I will see you guys next time. Peace.